Hello everyone! This video is intended to offer supplemental information for Project 4, Electronic Writing Portfolio. In this video, I'll go over the details of the assignment prompt, discuss the process for approaching this assignment, and explain the purpose of this assignment in the ENC 2135 course sequence. Let's get started. This assignment asks students to compose an electronic writing portfolio. An e-portfolio is typically a collection of writing samples that showcases students' best work. A writing portfolio is created by collecting, selecting, and reflecting on writing that is completed at the end of a given period of time. A unit, a course, a program, even a career. Students will create an e-portfolio that includes a globally revised version of one of the major writing projects, supporting artifacts reflecting their particular composing practices and writing skills, and a reflective statement that articulates what they have learned about writing by completing the major projects in this course. The e-portfolio includes three major components: a revised, edited, and polished version of either Project 1 or Project 2, the student's choice of at least two artifacts, which could be in-class activities, homework assignments, or even notes explaining a concept, that reflect their particular composing practices, or the development of particular writing or communicative skills that are focused on in the class, and a reflective statement of what they learned about genres, composing, and rhetorical strategies in the process of completing the course's three major projects. In terms of process, I usually recommend students complete their project revision and select their two artifacts before they compose their reflective statement. I'll explain why later in this video. First, students will revise, edit, and polish either Project 1 or Project 2. Revision as a process is important for any kind of writing. This class employs revision strategies by completing multiple drafts and making changes in response to feedback. The e-portfolio takes the revision process one step further. Students should carefully consider which project they want to revise, what they would change, and what effect they think those changes will have. It's important to note that revision doesn't just mean correcting typos and grammatical errors. While editing and proofreading are important, students' focus should be on global revisions, that is, changes that involve the big picture of their essay. Global revisions relate to ideas, purpose, audience, evidence, analysis, and organization. Second, students will select at least two artifacts that reflect their composing practices or the development of particular writing or communicative skills that are focused on in this class. Artifacts refer to materials that students have created for ENC 2135, including in-class activities, homework assignments, or even notes explaining a concept. Students should review the activities and homework they've completed in the class, as well as any notes, plans, or outlines, and consider activities that they think were the most beneficial to their learning. Another approach is to consider what concepts from the class that they think are the most important and to select artifacts that would demonstrate those concepts. Ultimately, the artifacts that students select should demonstrate what they've learned in the course. Then, students will compose their reflective statements. The reflective statement is the cornerstone of the e-portfolio because it ties together all the other components. It invites students to reflect on what they learned about genres, composing, and rhetorical strategies in the process of completing the course's major projects. Students' primary goals are to 1. Articulate what they have learned in the course, 2. Explain the choices they made in the revision of Project 1 or Project 2, and 3. To contextualize the artifact selections they included in their e-portfolio. Okay, now that students have composed and gathered their materials, it's time to build the e-portfolio itself. As a reminder, the goal of this assignment is not for students to become web design experts. While students should consider navigation and accessibility, this assignment is primarily graded on the contents of the e-portfolio. Here I've offered some free tools that students can use to compose their e-portfolios. My personal favorite is Wix. I think it's pretty user-friendly, and they offer a lot of design flexibility. I'll also note that the FSU Digital Studio can provide resources about e-portfolio design for both instructors and students as you work on this project. Here's an example of how this assignment functions. If I were creating my e-portfolio, I might choose to revise Project 1. Let's say I got some feedback that I chose fine sources for my research essay, but I needed to work on balancing sources with my own voice by commenting, critiquing, and evaluating. I definitely want to work on those things in my revision. And in line with that thinking, I might select the CARS analysis assignment, where I analyze research paper introductions, and the dinner party with sources activity, where I put my sources in conversation with one another, for my 2 artifacts. These artifacts help me to think about research papers differently. I've never really thought critically about the purpose and scaffolding of my introduction paragraphs. And usually, when I write research essays, I just go source by source. I never really thought about how my sources talk to each other and support my claims. In my reflective statement, then, I would want to articulate what I learned in this course about writing or my writing process by explaining what I worked on in my revision and why I selected the artifacts that I did. These elements of the ePortfolio serve as a kind of evidence to support my claims of learning. I've also included a design shell that can model one way to structure the ePortfolio. This is just one option, though. There are certainly other ways. I'll click through it here to demonstrate. In my ePortfolio shell, I start with a home page that has a brief about me. I might include in this paragraph a little bit of meta text that just sort of explains the purpose of the ePortfolio. I've also thought about navigation for my audience and how to access the 3 major components of the ePortfolio. If I click on any of these buttons, you can see that it's just placeholder text, but this is really just to give students an idea of what an ePortfolio can look like and how to structure the different pieces. So under revision, I like to include multiple points of navigation. This is not a requirement, but it is an option. Here I have a PDF viewer app so that you could use this to sort of have the essay display right there on the text. But you can also use buttons to make these downloadable, or you could copy and paste the text directly onto the page. And lastly, I might have a page just for my 2 artifacts where I would include the artifact itself or a link to it, as well as some text describing why I selected that artifact. I just think offering as much text as possible to your reader to sort of explain why you're choosing what you're choosing or how to access certain things is important. But again, this is at your own personal discretion of how you want to structure it. Okay. Finally, why are we doing this? We've gone over a lot of key terms and concepts in this course. This project invites students to review what they've learned throughout the semester. We've also talked about writing as a process, but usually once a project is submitted, that process ends. This project enables students to continue to revise and improve their work beyond the normal scope of a project assignment. Also, this project encourages students to highlight what assignments and activities are most meaningful to them and to showcase their best work. And it's also an opportunity for students to reflect on their growth as writers. Through reflection, students might find that some of the knowledge, skills, or expertise they developed can serve them in other contexts outside of this classroom. Okay, that's all. Thank you for watching.